Year in and year out, I struggle with drafting a couple of different players. Over the last couple of seasons, it's been Jeudy from the Cleveland Browns. Jeudy, formerly of the Denver Broncos, first round pick of the Alabama Crimson Tide, 15th pick overall, had a interesting start to his career. I guess you could say is the easiest way. He had 113 targets, 52 receptions, 856 yards. The first year in Denver. The next year he played just 10 games. Started out slow. He didn't average 10 points or more in fantasy points per game on average until the third year in the league when he had 100 targets, 67 receptions, and 972 yards with 6 touchdowns. Finished as wide receiver 19 in a fantasy points per game basis. Down year in 2023. Then he finally has 1,000-yard output in 2024. 144 targets did Jeudy have in the 2024 campaign. His quarterback in 2025 is none other than Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco spent a decade in Baltimore with his leading target getters being predominantly these slot-ish type guys. You think of Steve Smith, who had 134 targets in 2014, Anquan Bolden for 3 seasons in the early 2010s, 109, 106, 112. Torrey Smith had 137 in there. Kamar Aiken had 127. Mike Wallace added 116 and 92 in respective seasons. None of these guys have had north of 7 receiving touchdowns, and none of these guys have had 1,200 yards in a season. Derek Mason hit it twice at the 1,000-yard marker. Torrey Smith at the 1,100-yard marker. Steve Smith and Mike Wallace just barely crested the 1,000-yard marker with Joe Flacco at the quarterback. Judy could be the most prolific receiver, if this holds true, that Joe Flacco has ever played with from a fantasy football, from a statistical perspective. In 2024 in Indianapolis, Joe Flacco was the quarterback for 7 games. Week 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 17, and 18. His leading receiver across the board, 66 targets, 465 yards, 2 touchdowns, was Josh Downs. After that, we saw Michael Pittman come in. I think the number was just 405 yards. He had like 50-some targets. Next, it was Alec Pierce, 34 targets, 345 yards, 4 touchdowns. Downs, the slot. The reason I brought up the guys from before, the Mike Wallaces, the Steve Smiths, the Anquan Boldens, the natural slot receivers, where Judy's at. This past weekend, we had a Cedric Tillman minor injury. They feel like they made it through. Cedric Tillman's back at practice. He's going to be fine. Age 26, age apex entering Jeudy is in an offense that'll start the season with Joe Flacco at the helm. This should be a positive for Joe Flacco and Jeudy. I don't think anybody else in this offense outside of, you could sell me on Cedric Tillman to a certain extent because of the price. He's going in the 160s, the 170s. Judy's wide receiver 33 going off the board right now in ADP. That's overall about 71, 72, right around Chris Godwin, Romadunze. He's a value from that perspective. Cleveland is not going to be a high-scoring offense. That's not what we're playing here. We're playing the first down, the receptions, the targets game with Jeudy. 144 targets just a year ago in this Browns offense. First full season with the Cleveland Browns for Jeudy, and they go 3-14, and that's the return you get is 144 targets. You go back a year ago and look at who is throwing the football. Jameis Winston had 296 attempts. Deshaun Watson had 216. Dorian Thompson-Robinson with 118, and Bailey Zappi added in 31. Judy's 145 targets led the team. Elijah Moore had 102. He's no longer on the roster. David Njoku had 97. Jordan Akins had 58. Amari Cooper had 53. You take Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, and Jordan Akins together, that's 213 targets unaccounted for within that top 5. Cedric Tillman had 49. I expect that number to go up. Deontay Johnson is there. We'll see how long he's there. Judy's number was 145, and I don't think that's a ceiling. 90 catches, 1,200 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jeudy finished as wide receiver 21 on a fantasy points per game basis with nearly 1,600 air yards in 2024. I'm drafting Jeudy. Generally, like I told you, in prior years, there's players I'll stay away from. I'm not going to draft Jerry Jeudy. There was, DeAndre Swift for a while, Devonta Freeman. There's certain guys year in and year out that are just kind of like stay away. Stay away once you see certain things happen. Once the offensive line falls apart with a guy, injuries happen too much with a guy, the connection isn't there with a guy. But this thing right here with Joe Flacco and Jerry Jeudy in Cleveland, I get the David Njoku thing. He's going to get his targets. Harold Fannon's going to carve out a little bit of a role. Cedric Tillman, if he's healthy, is going to have a role. This offensive line's good enough. Are they good enough to lean on the run? I mean, that's easier. It's an easier thing to do for an offensive line is to lean into the run. If Judkins is on the field, if Dylan Sampson's on the field, I trust Joe Flacco for at least the first half of the season to get Jerry Jeudy to the finish line as a top 24 wide receiver. And if you're counting top 24 is better than wide receiver 33, where he's currently going off the board right now. In 2024, he led the league with 700 routes run. He was 4th in snap share. He was 7th in total targets. He was 5th in air yards, 6th in receiving yards, 11th in receptions. But he was 3rd in drops. He had 8 drops. That's always been the big stick for Jerry Jeudy. I'm Cody Carpentier with the RosterWatch.com. RosterWatch.com. Go check it out. Get yourself a pro or a premium membership today. You can see the QR code's been in the top left the whole time. It's now right here in the middle of the screen. Ultimate Draft cheat sheets are available now. PPR, Superflex, half and standard. They're all available up at RosterWatch.com. Go check them out. You cannot afford to draft without the Ultimate Draft cheat sheet this season.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to Roster Watch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to Roster Watch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to Roster Watch.